Hello out there. We're on the air. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Bitcoin Journey. Actionable and logical discussion for Bitcoiners and for future Bitcoiners. She's been a morning. She has been a morning. I say that a lot probably on here, but today was one. I signed out of my Gmail account by accident. I went to switch profiles within YouTube and I pressed sign out. So I signed out of everything. And if you've had an email for years and you usually just stay logged into it, I know it's horrible security practice, but it is not easy to get back into it. So I had to send a code to my Hotmail from when I was like 11 years old, had to find the password for that, had to log in, had to get a code for that. So anyways, we are here. And it looks like we got some great faces in the chat this morning as well. Jose is here. Good morning. Johnny is here. Good morning. Crypto Heathen, rock and roll. Looks like he started a sentence there and then hit send by accident. Crypto Heathen, pretty much everything red besides our buddies at Devour. DPay is up 20% on the daily. Devour is actually like an Uber Eats with crypto, and we do have a little bit of news in terms of that as well. Uber Eats and cryptocurrency. Is the internet here okay? I don't know. Nothing's working today for me. Nothing's working. The metrics wouldn't even work. I couldn't copy and paste the metrics into the Google sheet this morning. So we're going to have to do without the metrics today. Well, partially. Bitcoin news is in the house as well. Good morning, my friend. We got a little special announcement in regards to Bitcoin news that we'll get to in a couple minutes here. But for now, what was I going to talk about first here? Oh, Zap.stream. So yesterday we were on Zap.stream. It worked really well. Chat was buzzing. We actually had the founder, the creator of Zap.stream in the live chat, and we didn't even know it was him. I think I actually chirped him to be for asking a question about how we found Zapstream. But anyways, he was there. Let's check to see how Zapstream is looking today. Couple in there. So one thing I will say about Zap.stream is that we set up a link yesterday. So it's very easy to find. We linked it to the website, bitcoinjourney.ca. So if you want to be part of the Zap.stream, all you have to enter into your browser is bitcoinjourney.ca/stream. And you can find it there because the link that I had for it yesterday was like an essay. So we shortened it. Big shout out to my friend Ido, who set up the website and has been helping me with it. So if you are somebody, I'll give a quick little plug to Ido because he's well deserving of it. If you are somebody who has a business or has a website and kind of wants to revamp it or make it simpler, more user-friendly, I would highly recommend Ido from, I don't know where he's from, Austria, I think. I found him on Nostr. He set up the website for me, and we've been working pretty closely together. So if you need a website and you want to pay in Bitcoin and you want somebody who knows what they're doing, get in touch with me. I'll set you up with Ido. Very reasonably priced as well, especially if you're paying in Bitcoin. So shout out to Ido for the website. Let's get to the metrics here. Let's get to the partial metrics because my Google Drive decided to crap out on me today, but that's okay. Stuff happens when you're live every single morning, and it will always happen. So we're currently block height 835,360. Fee spike a little bit since I checked last, 34 sats per VByte if you're transacting on the Bitcoin Layer 1 network. And I think that's about it for today. We did see the price crash. Usually I have the metrics there with the price and everything in there. But let's see where are we at right now. 63,000 US dollars for one Bitcoin. Almost, it's still probably close to 90,000 Canadian for one Bitcoin. So let's talk about the price a little bit because we have to. That's kind of the hot subject in Bitcoin right now. So whenever the price drops a little bit, it seems like people go a little bit crazy, start freaking out. The people who have been in Bitcoin for a while, I think this is kind of a bonus for them. If you're somebody who buys Bitcoin and continues to buy Bitcoin, regardless of the price, then you're getting your sats on sale today. And what more could you ask for, honestly? The thing you have to keep in mind with this whole thing is there's much less to worry about when these things happen now. Historically, Bitcoin has never just gone up and up and up and never corrected itself a little bit. But with the ETFs that we have now, there's a very solid base, a foundation, and a floor being built by these ETFs. And so if you think logically about the situation, about the price dip, do you really believe that the 9 biggest, I don't even know what you'd call them, ETF applicants, issuers, do you think that they're getting into the ETFs, they're buying 10,000, 30,000 Bitcoin per week, whatever it is, because they think the price of Bitcoin is always going to be around 60, 70,000 bucks, and they're worried that it dropped a couple $1,000? These ETFs are buying Bitcoin as much as they possibly can right now, as much Bitcoin as they can get their hands on. And so I still think that, it's fun to talk about the price every day on the show. People seem to, really fixate on that, especially the mainstream news when it drops. But we are here for the long term. We know where this is going. I think the majority of people who watch the show wouldn't even consider selling their Bitcoin until you add a couple more zeros on there. So it's going to go up, it's going to go down. We just have to continue the path that we're on, stay the course, and keep buying as much as we can. So with that in mind, let's get to a little bit of news here. Let me find this. Let me bring up a tweet. Let me bring up a little tweet here. We do have, like I said, we do have a special announcement today. Every show, I go through a couple different happenings around the world in terms of news in the Bitcoin world, just to keep people kind of informed, in the loop. So thankfully, we do have a sponsor for this segment now. And that sponsor is going to be Bitcoin News. They're in the chat this morning for a special appearance on the show. And what we're going to be, of course, it signed me out of that one too. Oh, what a way to start the brand new segment. Okay, well, I'll figure that out. Just give me a couple minutes here. But we do have a sponsor for this segment. We're going to talk about some news every day like we've been doing. But this is going to be sponsored by Bitcoin News. So Bitcoin News is pretty much my main source for Bitcoin information. Every morning before the show, that's where I check first. Bitcoin News, their Twitter account, for the latest happenings. The one thing I do love about Bitcoin News in terms of their content that they put out is it's not just news. They have memes on there. They have videos. They have interviews. If you want to stay informed on Bitcoin, first of all, watch this show, obviously, as you're doing, but also give Bitcoin News a check every morning. Make sure to follow them on there. And they do also have a YouTube account that they've been going strong with for the last couple months. So within the description here, I got the links for Bitcoin News for their website, where they have all their information on there. It's kind of like the new version of the New York Times, except very unbiased and very focused on Bitcoin. And I also love the fact that they don't mess around with any sort of cryptocurrencies and altcoins. It's specifically focused on Bitcoin. So the website's in there. Their YouTube channel is in there. And every Monday and Wednesday, they do live streams. They also have a more polished interview on Tuesdays. So they got a guy on there named Luke. He interviews. He does a more polished version of it, edited, very high paced, high energy, and a very good way to stay in the loop in terms of Bitcoin. So big shout out to Bitcoin News. They're going to be a sponsor for this segment every day going forward, and very much appreciated. It's nice to work with other Bitcoiners in the space. So the first piece of news, and kind of tying back to Crypto Heathen's comment here, and this was from Bitcoin News this morning as well. Singapore, their version of Uber Eats is called Grab. And they announced yesterday or this morning, one of the two, whatever time it is in Singapore right now, that they're going to be accepting Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for their service. So that's massive. We have companies in North America like Devour who are kind of working on the same thing. But it sounds like, from what I understand, is that this Grab, it's called, in Singapore, is the Uber Eats version of Singapore there. So they're accepting Bitcoin. Pretty cool. I like to show as many businesses who are accepting Bitcoin as possible, because that's kind of one of the main things that people throw at Bitcoin is that, well, I can't buy anything with Bitcoin. Well, you're just not looking hard enough, I think. And there are plenty of businesses in Canada here, in the US, who are accepting Bitcoin. You just have to do a little bit of sniffing. And part of that show, or part of this show, is going to be focused on that kind of stuff. Also in the news, and this wasn't on my list, but I did see this right before the show. Sailor just bought another 9,245 Bitcoin. So they were initially supposed to buy, I think, $500 million worth of Bitcoin. That's what they raised. That's what their initial announcement was last week. They were going to raise 500 million bucks in, what do they call it, convertible debt. And they ended up getting 623 million and another 9,000 Bitcoin. He's not messing around. Sailor is not messing around. BlackRock just passed him last week in terms of how many Bitcoin they own. And Sailor's not backing down. So it'll be very interesting to see kind of what plays out with this whole MicroStrategy, BlackRock, how many they can actually get. And that's something that we need to pay attention to ourselves in terms of letting these guys just buy all the Bitcoin. Because as good as that is for price wise, it's not great for Bitcoin usage, in my opinion. But Bitcoin is for everybody. Bitcoin is for enemies. And so it's for BlackRock as well, unfortunately. Shout out to, I want to keep giving shout outs to Zap.stream, because that's where I do want to eventually transition to. We're going to have the YouTube channel, but we're going to be on Zap.stream quite a bit. So Letha is there. Good morning, Letha. Nice to see you. So check that out. Go to bitcoinjourney.ca/stream and just play around a little bit. You can see how unique the Zap.stream is compared to YouTube. With its functionality, you can actually send Bitcoin in there. You can leave links, pictures, and it's pretty good. The quality is very high in terms of the video as well. Tommy D is in the house. Good morning, my friend. Tommy D says Australian Luke. Yes. And Bitcoin News confirms that. Australian Luke McKeek? McKike? Anyways, we're going to keep things rolling here. We're going to keep things rolling. And as Rick says here, make sure to smash the like. We're talking about Bitcoin News. We're talking about this channel. We're talking about Zap.stream. One thing we really need to be doing, one thing we can do in Bitcoin is just support each other. Any Bitcoiner out there with a channel who's talking about Bitcoin, any news station like Bitcoin News who's specifically talking about Bitcoin, these are the people, these are the groups that we need to be supporting as much as we possibly can. So not only buying Bitcoin, but being part of the Bitcoin network itself includes all this stuff. And so the tools like Zap.stream that are available, tools like Nostr, these are the things that we need to be actually spending our time in so they can be built. Jack Dorsey's main message in, what was it, Bitcoin Atlantis a couple weeks ago, is that we can't just sit around and wait for things to be built and hope everything just works out. We need to be people who are front running this stuff, who are putting our time and our energy into these new systems, into these new tools, and we have to be the people who are pushing this thing forward. So, I mean, you're here today, so you are part of that movement, and it does come with some responsibility. It's up to us. It's up to the little guy to move this thing forward. Rock and roll, they got 1% of total supply for Chad Sailor. That's nuts. 1% of the total supply of Bitcoin. Imagine that. I'm still trying to get to 1 Bitcoin myself. And she's been a grind, but it's gonna be a grind. It's not something that you put 20,000 bucks into and then you're just done. For me anyways. I wanna set myself up where I have some Bitcoin, I'm spending Bitcoin, I'm earning Bitcoin, and we're doing everything we possibly can to move this thing forward. Because this is the most important thing in our lifetime, and I think that a lot of is Bitcoin. Yeah. Brendan, great call here, and that's the next thing I wanted to touch on. Brendan says, "Can't wait for for Barry Dildo to be all out of Bitcoin." So on that news, also from Bitcoin News Twitter feed, GBTC, Grayscale Trust. Their outflow yesterday was the biggest one yet. 643 million worth of Bitcoin, approximately 10,000 Bitcoin left GBTC. And I'm not going to lie to you, it is a little bit disheartening to me, mostly because Bitcoin is still at a point where they are able to manipulate it. They can manipulate the price with this kind of bullshit like GBTC. And I don't know for sure. This is just my speculation, of course. The fact that they're just dumping this Bitcoin because there's such few Bitcoin available. And so what they're doing here is they're just moving Bitcoin back and forth in and out of Grayscale Trust. There's a lot of shady things that happen in this world, and I think the majority of it we are completely unaware of. And it, like I said, it is disheartening in the sense that they still have the ability to manipulate the price of Bitcoin. But at the same time, two things. The first thing is that I don't think they're going to be able to do it forever. Definitely won't be able to do it forever. And the second thing is that when they manipulate the price upwards, that helps us. When they manipulate the price downwards, that helps us because we are not the people who are going to be panic selling any Bitcoin. We're not going to be selling it just because it drops a couple thousand bucks. We're going to be the people who are buying Bitcoin when it drops a couple thousand bucks. So, as shitty as it is that these people are still able to kind of control the price of Bitcoin with these different tools that they have, it is still very important to focus on the positive here in the sense that when it goes up, we become more wealthy. When it goes down, we can accrue more. And that is the goal here. The goal is to become rich in fiat terms. The goal is to become rich in Bitcoin terms. And so the more we can get for the cheaper, I think the better. So big GFY to Grayscale and very dildo here, as Brennan says. Oh, look at this. We got a new, not a new face in the house, but a new name by the looks of it. Our friend Litecoin Only made an official announcement on the show the other day that he's Bitcoin only, but it looks like he changed his mind. He's got both. He's kind of in the transition phase right now. He's LTC, BTC only with Litecoin and Bitcoin logo. We'll respect it. It's better than Litecoin only for sure. The new news, Bitcoin news. I would agree with that. That's one of the shifts that we've seen in these last 4 years, slowly has happened. And that is that people don't trust the mainstream media anymore at all. Even though they're still kind of kicking around, they're still hanging in there, mostly because our Canadian government funds them with our tax dollars. But nobody trusts the mainstream news anymore. We are the news. This show is the news. News is the news. And that's the beauty. That's kind of what yesterday's show was talking about is like there's the truth and there's Bitcoin, and they're trying their best to damper and stomp the truth down, stomp Bitcoin down. And all they can do is slow it down. All they can do is slow it down. They cannot stop Bitcoin and they cannot stop the truth from coming out as hard as they try. Eventually, we are going to win this thing, but it's not going to be easy, right? Good morning, Francis, my friend. Crypto Heathen, we are the network in caps, all caps. Oh, I got an itchy eye. I got itchy eye disease. Francis says, FYI, Coinbase is limiting my buy of Bitcoin by not allowing me to add fiat to my account. That has to be something worth watching. Thanks for sharing that, Francis. Because this show is not a fan of Coinbase. The show will never be a supporter of Coinbase. I think that Coinbase is. They've done some good things in Bitcoin. They've helped a lot of people come into Bitcoin, but I think that Coinbase is more of our enemy than our friend. And so, if you have the choice, if you're in Canada or in the US or whoever Coinbase applies to, if you have a choice between using Coinbase and somebody else, always choose somebody else. Always choose somebody else. And if you're looking for somebody to, here, let me bring this up. Let me bring this up on the screen here. Hopefully, it works. Where are we here? That's not what it is. Here's what you can do. I'll bring it up on the screen. Go to bitcoin.org and then click resources and then click exchanges. And the beauty of this is you can actually find all the peer-to-peer exchanges that are out there. But then you can go down to whatever country you're in. So if you're in Europe, if you're in the Netherlands, you can see all the different exchanges. I guess there's only one in Netherlands, according to this, specific to the Netherlands. But this is where you can go to find all the different exchanges. And then from there, that's the first part. That's the first step in your journey. And then from there, you go to heyapollo.com, who maybe one day will be a sponsor of this show. And then you go through categories, you go to exchanges, and then you can type in the exchange that you saw on bitcoin.org. And then you can look at all the different reviews from Bitcoiners. So look at this Coinbase, 3.3 average review. Commented lightning. Oh, am I going down here? I'm not going down. We thought about going down for a second there, but we're back, I think. Are we live? Wow. Internet hasn't been great here. It's kind of funny. Small town internet out in the rural area. And the funny thing is I played golf the other day, virtual golf, our internet provider. He's a guy who has a small business around here. He has his own internet company, a couple towers. And I was playing golf the other day, and he asked how my internet was. It's perfect. I do a live stream every morning and never have any issues with it. And then, of course, since then, we've had a couple of issues here. So, anyways, Mr. James Bond is in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Crypto Heathen says Coinbase account does not exist. Okay, so it seems like everybody in this chat, for the most part, is on my side in terms of Coinbase, hating Coinbase. So, anyways, let's keep the show rolling. So Francis says, luckily, I have another venue to get some Bitcoin. One thing I would say, and this is kind of what I've been saying, especially future show that we do every day after the YouTube, but it's probably a good idea to get yourself set up on a couple different exchanges, especially if you're somebody who's using non-KYC stuff. So with KYC means know your customer. So are we laggy here? We're okay. That means that they know who you are. So I would be a little bit hesitant in terms of setting up a lot of different KYC accounts where you're basically just handing over your information to whoever wants it. But in terms of non-KYC stuff, I would be getting set up on as many different accounts and exchanges within the non-KYC world as possible for different reasons. Some exchanges go down if they run out of Bitcoin. Some exchanges go down for maintenance when they conveniently run onto Bitcoin or they don't want to sell any more Bitcoin. But it is a good idea to get yourself set up in a few different ways. Bitcoin News says, "Hey Apollo is great. It is a fantastic resource for anybody who's looking for anything. You can look for a new device on there. You can look for an exchange to use, anything. Hey Apollo, and it has reviews by Bitcoiners on there." Okay, well, we got to keep things moving along here. The other thing I wanted to show, and I don't know if this is a good idea or not with this internet, but we'll give it a go. We'll give it a go. Let me get logged into my Gmail account here. Just give me one sec here. I do know the password for this one. But it is all hard to do things when you're live on. See what happens. Man, Google really goes overboard with what they want from you whenever you do something, eh? Put your fingerprint into this account. Okay, Bitcoin News. Where are we here? I think this is the one. Okay, here we go. Here we go. This is the last part of news today. Like I said, with Bitcoin News, they not only have all the different stuff happening within Bitcoin, but they also have memes and they have videos like this one that we're going to watch within their account. So my computer seems like it's running really hot right now. So we'll see how this goes. Let's get rid of this. This is pretty cool though, and I've seen this before, but I've never seen like a short clip of it like this has been presented. Okay, mute myself and let's watch. It's only about a minute and a half long.
I just moved to New York, going through a little bit of a rough time. I went to the Russian Baths on 10th Street and feeling better than I had in years.
So he started his own in an old soda factory in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
We built this place for the hardcore sauna heads, for people who are trying to optimize their performance, their longevity, their overall health.
But while the bathhouse is designed to evoke ancient tradition, what's going on behind the scenes is cutting edge. Step behind the old school facade, past the dryers and the back of house staff, and you'll find the pump room, where the waters piped into the baths are heated up to 104 degrees. But you'll also find something extraordinary. Computers submerged in fluid, serving dual purposes, heating the water and mining Bitcoin.
It kind of clicked in my mind. Bitcoin mining produces heat as a byproduct. I buy energy to create heat.
He found YouTube videos of hobbyists using Bitcoin to heat their pools and hot tubs. Instead of cooling the computers with fans, they're submerged in a specially engineered biodegradable fluid that doesn't conduct the electric current, but does absorb the heat, which a heat exchanger transfers into hot water that moves directly into the pools.
I was able to make hot water really easily. So then it became very apparent that this was going to work. Bitcoin mining is really important. Let's design a system and scale it up. And it was very easy to do.
How cool is that? How cool is that? Like I said, I did see the fact that they were doing that before. I just never saw like a nice video with some behind the scenes stuff there. So that was pretty cool, I thought. And that's just a perfect example of another one of many things that a lot of people are sleeping on within Bitcoin. You know, it said that heat is a byproduct of Bitcoin mining. And if you drill further into that, think about how important that is. And I do foresee a day, and this is something I'm looking into right now myself. I do foresee a day where I'm going to have Bitcoin miners in my basement. And instead of the usual furnace that we've had for the last how many years in the world, it's just going to be Bitcoin miners, and they're going to be producing heat It's going to be hooked up to the ventilation system that is already there, but it'll just change the way we do everything, because instead of paying for a furnace and not getting any return on it, we're going to heat our house in the exact spot while we're mining Bitcoin and getting some of a rebate back. And who knows, maybe one day everything will just be free. Future, nothing's going to cost hardly anything, because the world is so abundant, and we just need to. One thing that we've been lacking in the last 100 years of our life is adults in the room. We've been lied to, we've been manipulated, and we've been robbed of everything that this world has to offer. And so I do think that we're kind of turning the corner here. We're turning the corner in a lot of ways, and Bitcoin mining, I think, in that sense, will be a big deal. And that's just my house. Think about all the businesses in the world. 330 million companies exist. How many of those companies are going to start implementing Bitcoin mining into their heating systems, especially here in Canada, where it's winter for 6 months? How, instead of just paying the electricity on it, why not mine Bitcoin and use that heat from the Bitcoin miners to heat your facility? If you can put yourself in that position where everybody's doing that because it makes the most sense to do logically, financially, and it's dumb not to. Think about when we get to there. Think about how much Bitcoin is going to be worth at that time. And so when we start the show and we talk about the price, whether it's 70,000 or 60,000, it's so irrelevant at this stage in the game. It's laughable. So that's what I will say on that. What a time to be alive is right. We are so lucky to be here right now. I mean, we've gone through some shit, and this is something I like to say a lot. Bitcoiners have gone through shit. Being a Bitcoiner is about 90% being called a dipshit and weird, but 10% being called a genius. And I think that as time goes on, that's going to start slowly transitioning to be 90% genius, 10% dumb. So it hasn't been an easy road, that's for sure. I'd give a lot of credit to anybody who is here today, who has Bitcoin, who's focused on Bitcoin and learning Bitcoin, because it's not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of guts, and I appreciate that, everybody who's here today. It is a major, brilliant system, the proof of work, translating heat for currency stability. The proof of work and the ability to capture wasted energy, unutilized energy around the world, and convert that directly into money. Pretty fucking cool. So wanted to show you that video from a spa in Brooklyn, heating the pools, heating the spa with Bitcoin miners. Pretty cool. Okay, I think that's it for the news today. I don't think I missed anything. Oh, I did see one more piece of news, but it was the guy who lost his laptop in the dump. I forget where it is, but this was also Bitcoin news. But he's opening up a lawsuit to try to find his laptop within the landfill. So I'm sure most people have heard this story before, but he threw away his laptop. Bitcoin obviously went from 10 cents to $60,000. And all of a sudden that Bitcoin's worth $1.5 billion. And so he's in a tussle with the landfill. I mean, for $1.5 billion, I just can't believe that they won't do something with that. Even if they say, you know what, we're going to work to find this laptop, we're going to do everything that we can to find this laptop. And if we do, we're going to split the Bitcoin 50-50. So the city gets 50%. What would that be? $750 million. And the guy who had the Bitcoin, he gets $750 million as well. I just feel like there's got to be a way to work that out. If they know that it's there and it could be still capable of getting the Bitcoin off there, Why wouldn't you do that? So it seems like they're going a step further now. I think he's taking them to court over it. And I mean, worst case scenario for him is that he goes through all this legal trouble all this time. Imagine sleeping at night. Imagine trying to close your eyes at night, knowing that somewhere in your town, in your garbage dump, in your landfill, is $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin sitting on a laptop. I mean, I'd probably lose sleep if I had like a million sats somewhere in a wallet that I couldn't get access to. I can't imagine he's going through there. I agree with Mr. James Bond here. How can Canada not be more intelligent than to go all in on Bitcoin? Canada would be the perfect place for Bitcoin. If we had somebody who had any sense of wanting to help this country instead of destroy it, we would be the top Bitcoin mining company in the world. We have so many natural resources here. We have the climate that would be perfect for Bitcoin mining, and we don't have any gold in the reserves. So, kind of the bright light, and I don't ever subscribe to a politician that's going to be able to fix what we're in right now. But the guy who's probably going to be the next prime minister, assuming Trudeau doesn't win another election, it's going to be Pierre. So, like I said, I don't like Pierre. I don't like any politicians. I don't think that that's the answer here, but I do think that he's going to be much more Bitcoin friendly. He told Canadians about a year ago when Bitcoin was $20,000 to buy Bitcoin, and he got slaughtered by the Liberal Party. He got slaughtered by the mainstream news, and they've been pretty quiet ever since the price went to $100,000 here in Canada. So we will see. And I agree with Rock and Roll. He says if any country doesn't get at least 1 billion into Bitcoin, they will be financially destroyed. And we're going to get to live through that. We're going to get to live through those wars. And it is a war. It's a war that's happening right now, right in front of our eyes. Every time that Michael Saylor issues debt to buy Bitcoin, part of the war. Every time Grayscale does some back and forth movement trying to manipulate the market, that's war. And we're in war right now. Not with guns, but with money. Because money is everything. And they're fighting to get as much as they possibly can right now. Okay. Well, after that, 37 minutes into the show, still haven't talked about even what we're going to talk about today. Oh, we really let that one get away from us today. Woosah. Okay. So the title of today's show is called Be Your Own Business. And as Bitcoiners, I'm sure you've heard the phrase be your own bank. That's kind of the idea with Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin was created, to separate money and state, centralize authorities who have been running our world for the last how many 100 years. Bitcoin was designed to separate from them. And so be your own bank. That means taking your own capital, your own energy, putting it into Bitcoin and taking custody of that Bitcoin so that nobody can tell you no and nobody can steal that Bitcoin from you. That is what we're here for. That is our end goal with Bitcoin. Take it a little bit sideways down the path. And with be your own business, this is kind of my theory on what's going to play out in the next, I don't know. I don't like putting timelines on anything, but I think that probably within our lifetime, this will happen. It's already happening. So I'm kind of under the opinion that let's just use 10 years as a reasonable year. Within 10 years, I think that the whole, what would you call it? How everything looks is going to look much differently. Like if you think about kind of 10 years ago today, where all of us, this YouTube wasn't really here. We were all at our jobs, 9 to 5 for the most part. And we were just going to work. We were doing what we had to do to earn fiat, to pay the bills. But then, of course, everything started getting more and more expensive, and our currency started losing value. And the system started to change. And so, what I foresee in the future is that I don't think people are gonna be working. I think that everybody's gonna be their own business. They're gonna be their own boss. Whatever they do, they're gonna find a way to do that for people, add value to their lives, and in return, earn Bitcoin back. And the reason I say this is because with Bitcoin, I do think that there's gonna be a day where people start asking to be paid in Bitcoin because our currency is literally gonna be worth so much less than how much things cost. So think about it, even in these last couple of years, think about how much inflation, how much everything costs nowadays versus how much people's wages have gone up since then. It's not even close. And they like to say that it's 2, 3, even 8% inflation. Things have literally doubled in Canada in the last 5 years, price-wise. Wages have not. And so there's gonna come a day where people start saying, "I don't want dollars anymore, I want Bitcoin." And if you think through that process of what happens there, what are the employers gonna say? They're not gonna system that they've spent the last X amount of years building. They're not gonna fire their whole, accounting, um, department. So they're gonna be very hesitant to do that. With that leg, people are gonna start earning Bitcoin on the side. What I foresee is that people are gonna go to their job, they're gonna make enough money to live, put food on their table, and at night, and partially during the day, they're gonna be doing different jobs and earning Bitcoin because of that leg. Well, let's just kinda walk through this here. Somebody out there in the chat maybe today, you go to your job 9 to 5 every day, and in a couple months from now, you go to your boss and say, "Look, everything's too expensive, way too expensive. Either you need to pay me double or you need to pay me in Bitcoin." And the boss is gonna say, "Well, I have no idea what Bitcoin is. We don't have the processes, the systems in place to do that. So unfortunately, I'll look into it, but at this time, we have to keep paying you in dollars." During that time, and probably leading up to that point, you're already looking at ways to earn Bitcoin on your own. And so the time between you asking your boss to be paid in Bitcoin and them actually following through with that, it could be 5 years later and they finally announce that they're gonna start paying their employees in Bitcoin. You're way ahead of that already. You've gone home, you've set a nostr account, you've started doing whatever it is that you do, whether that's legal advice, whether that's converting AI photos into stuff for businesses, whether that's bookkeeping, whatever that is, you go home at night, you do that, and you earn Bitcoin. And during that delay there, those 5 or 10 years where I shouldn't say 5 or 10 years, we'll say 5 years. The time between you asking your boss to be paid in Bitcoin and them actually paying you in Bitcoin, you've already developed your whole system. You've already been earning Bitcoin during that whole time. And that little amount of Bitcoin that you've been accruing for the last couple of years is suddenly worth more than the fiat that you've earned in the last 5 years. And you kinda get to that point where you know that it's never gonna go back to what it was. And so instead of fighting it, instead of asking for somebody to pay you in Bitcoin, you just pursue that full. I do think that's gonna be a very, uh, common thing that happens over these next couple of years is that exact scenario is gonna happen over and over and over again. And think about the people who have already left their 9 to 5 job and started doing their own contract work in fiat. They're gonna be much easier and more flexible and more agile to start accepting Bitcoin, and they're gonna want to accept Bitcoin. So think about the differences there. Think about the difference between everything within that whole structure there. So think about what we are replacing here. It's that with your payroll, people get paid every 2 weeks. Why? Why do people get paid every 2 weeks instead of every day? Well, it's because our financial system isn't capable of handling payouts every single day. That is why. With Bitcoin, you don't have to wait 2 weeks to get paid. You can get paid at the end of every day, at the end of every job, halfway through the job, and you don't have to wait for anybody to give that to you. And even thinking back like 10 years ago, I remember I had tons of different jobs from pumping gas to having work for the government, doing the census surveys, golf course, um, where else? Car dealership. You would actually have to go to, they'd give you a check every 2 weeks. You'd have to go down to the bank, give the bank that check, and they would fund your account. Of course, since then, it's a little bit better now. You can actually just take a picture of the check or you can send a direct deposit. But this is just the natural progression and transition of how technology works. So whether Bitcoin is a better money or not, the systems within Bitcoin are much more efficient than what we have now. So not only is the money going to be worth a lot more in terms of holding its purchasing power and things getting cheaper over time, as LTC BTC says here, things get cheaper when you're living on Bitcoin. And that's exactly what's going to continue happening. And not only is it going to be better money, but it's going to be much more efficient money. So you're not going to have to wait 2 weeks to get paid. Think about how backwards that is. And the system that we have now and the technology that we have, you have to wait 2 weeks to get paid for going to work every day. And not only that, but before that money touches your bank account, the government comes in and takes 30% of that. Is that fair? No, it wasn't always that way. The payroll remittances where the government just decided that, you know what, we don't even trust you enough to pay taxes at the end of the year. So we're just gonna write a new law that says before that money even touches your bank account, we're gonna come in and take our fair share because we don't trust you enough to pay taxes at the end of the year. Could you imagine if the payroll remittances didn't exist today and people could just earn their full salary? They could invest that money for 12 months instead of having it go to the government instantly. How many people would be paying their taxes at the end of the year? Not many. And there's dozens of reasons that you can put on paper in terms of why Bitcoin is gonna win and why this transition is gonna play out. But it's better money, it's more efficient money, and there's nobody that's gonna come in there when you receive that Bitcoin, there's no government that's gonna come in and take any of that. With that being said, I do think that the government, assuming they exist in 10 years from now, there will be some sort of taxation built into Bitcoin. I have no idea what it's gonna look like. But in the meantime, we have the ability today to set ourselves up for that. So I'm sure that sounds like a much better system to a lot of people listening to this. I'm guessing we share that same mindset that the government should not be able to take 30% of your paycheck before it even touches your bank account. That is the most criminal, normalized thing that happens in our society. And so with that delay, with you asking your boss for Bitcoin to be paid in Bitcoin, what you're going to do is you're just going to start earning Bitcoin. So think about this. Think about whatever it is that you do for your job. Start thinking about how you can turn that into your own business where you can earn recurring Bitcoin. Instead of going home after your day at work and turning on the Netflix every night, do some work, build your business, figure out how to accept Bitcoin and start doing work for Bitcoiners. Because as it gets more valuable, the Bitcoiners that are here today are going to have much more influence. They're going to be much more willing to pay people in Bitcoin. And that's gonna play out. Not my opinion. This is not my opinion. This is already happening, and it's going to continue happening as Bitcoin increases in value and our dollar continues to lose value. Everybody's going to be their own boss. There are going to be different businesses who kind of join up with partnerships and different ventures, but there's in 10 years from now, I do not foresee a circumstance, maybe 15 years, whatever it is, further down the road. I don't see any circumstance where there's a business, they hire a bunch of employees and they go to that same job and do the exact same thing every single day. It's just not going to happen anymore. The world, the economy is now on a global scale. We're not just providing for the people down the street anymore. We should be very focused on our local communities. But we have the ability to offer our services and our products to every single person on this planet. And Bitcoin is going to be the currency that we use to send back and forth to each other for payment in that. So just jumping over to the Zapdot stream here. It looks like there's a new face in the chat, Reckon Graves. He says, completely agree, currently trying to figure out how to work for sats. That should be your main focus right now. And if you believe that one day, $1 is going to equal sat, then you should be doing every single thing that you can today to earn Bitcoin. Because think about how much more Bitcoin you can earn right now than dollars. 100,000 sats is much easier to earn than $100,000. And so find ways to earn sats. And if you think that eventually one day those two are going to be equal, one sat equals $1, then you should be spending the majority of your days trying to figure out how to earn Bitcoin, how to start your own business. It doesn't have to be crazy. It's a much different world that we're living in now. Before, you used to build a business and the main thing was growth. You have to get X amount of sales so you can hire X amount of employees and you can provide for everybody. That's not the case anymore. Figure out what you do best. It could be something that you already do in your job. An example of this that I just wanted to share here. An example of this is somebody I was listening to the other day. Basically, what they did was for their job, they were already doing this. They sent out a newsletter every week. That was kind of their job within the company. They sent out a newsletter every week, and basically all they did was they made a template of that, and they sold it online. And people paid like $10 a month, I think, to be part of this membership, where they get a free template, or not free, but a template every week to send out to their business or to their customers. So this is something that she was already doing. She figured out a way to monetize that and sell it to people and earn an income, a side income, which eventually turned into her full-time job. So think about the things that you do every single day. What are you good at? And what are some things that you already do that you could sell to other people and they would get value from that? And then figure out a way to earn Bitcoin instead of dollars. So pretty cool stuff, I think. I think that this is going to become more and more popular over time. But it is something that you should be thinking about every single day. So we're already at 52 minutes here somehow. I have no idea how that happened. But anyways, this is what we're going to do. So for every couple days after the main YouTube channel, we jump over to living in the future. Within that, it's been growing at a pretty good pace, and we actually just fired up a group chat yesterday. And so this is what I want to say about that, because all this ties in together. And if you are somebody who wants to start taking this stuff seriously, now is the time to be doing it. And so the main focus on living in the future is three things. Number one is becoming better Bitcoiners. Number two is building businesses on Bitcoin and figuring out ways to earn Bitcoin. And the third one is the network. The network, I believe, is going to be your most important asset over this next decade. Because the more Bitcoiners that you can join up with and network with and learn from and share different ideas and resources with, you're going to be much better off. I like to think the one thing that the old system does have working for it is that it has communities. So if you go to work every day, you go to your job, you go to your office, there's coffee breaks, there's the water cooler. You have a way to talk to people and generate new ideas from those people. That's a very powerful thing. It's much easier to do things in that type of a setting than on your own. So with the first part there, with becoming better Bitcoiners, one thing that we know that the ETFs are fighting for every single Bitcoin out there. The governments are going to be fighting for every single Bitcoin out there. So what we want to do is we want to buy as much as we possibly can. We want to learn how to store that as best we can I don't want to say hide, but to keep it protected from these companies, governments, and everybody who's going to be coming for our Bitcoin. That's the focus there. So we want to be better Bitcoiners. Second one is building a business within Bitcoin, figuring out ways to earn month ago now. Within this group, we already have a business that was kind of, I don't know what you bootstrapped. It's pretty cool. So there's a couple people, including myself, who are going to be working on this business, and anybody within the group is free to join in on it. It's going to be completely decentralized. It's going to be completely equal, and we're going to work together. Everybody's going to have their own role. We're going to try to build this business on Bitcoin that strictly accepts Bitcoin. We're not going to take any fiat. It's going to be Bitcoin only. And so, like I said, we have a couple people who have been working with me on that already. We already have 2 clients now within that who are going to be paying us in Bitcoin for that. And so basically what we're looking for, this is the first of many. We're going to be building a ton of different businesses, and that's how it's all going to spawn from this group. So building businesses, getting ahead of what's coming here, and really setting ourselves up for the future. And the network aspect of this. The crazy thing about what's happening online right now with all the AI is that we're not going to know who we can trust online anymore. We're going to see videos, we're going to get phone calls, we're going to get messages, and we're not going to have any sort of real way of knowing that that's who that person is. So within this network, basically, it's a very small, or very reasonable price to get in, but there has to be some sort of filter there because we don't want any spam. We don't want people who are just excited about Bitcoin and they decide to join this group, this chat. It's going to be very focused on getting to know each other and finding different ways that we can help each other. The network aspect, I believe, is going to be the most important aspect of this whole thing. And so currently, I'm going to be bumping up the price. I'm going to double the price because I really undervalue the network aspect of this, I think. And so in these next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doubling the price of living in the future. That includes the network aspect of it. But everybody who's in it right now and who's going to join this week are going to be grandfathered into that. So you're going to save 50% going forward forever. And there's a couple of cool surprises in there, we'll say, and benefits for being a member of that group, which involves Bitcoin. Part of I've kind of been dancing around it because I don't want this to be the main reason why people join this group. But part of our membership fees, the small fee to get into the membership, is going to go towards Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin runs up every bull run, we're going to use that money, use that Bitcoin within the community, whether that's a conference or a trip or a retreat or even just a gift for Christmas. We're going to use that small amount of Bitcoin that we take off of every membership fee and give it back to the community. So we're going to have a little reserve of Bitcoin. We're going to be very focused on earning Bitcoin, setting up different businesses, different ventures with each other, and figuring out how we can earn as much Bitcoin as possible today. Buying Bitcoin is not the end of the journey here. This whole thing is just a transition. We're moving from the only thing we've ever known into this brand new system, and that's where we're kind of already spending our time. Where one sat is $1, and we're trying to figure out ways to capitalize on that. So I'm jumping over there right now. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been here. It's pretty funny, actually. And I'm glad that we have all these different things going on right now because this was my end vision for where this was going to go. So when I initially started doing this show in November, 3 or 4 months ago now, we've done pretty much a daily show every day since then. But I started doing it at 8 in the morning because I didn't think that anybody was going to show up for it. My main goal from day one was to get some good information about Bitcoin out there, give some security tips on Bitcoin for about 10 or 15 minutes every morning. I wanted to do it at 8 a.m. because I didn't think that people would actually show up at 8 in the morning. And from day one, we've had a couple people who are in this chat, and it seems to be growing every single day. So I just wanted to say thank you for being here. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking and obviously subscribing to the channel. But this is just the very early days of this whole thing. So I appreciate you for being here. If you are interested in becoming better Bitcoiners, building businesses within Bitcoin, and becoming part of a network and a community focused on helping each other and growing together, then consider hopping over. What you need to do, there's a link right beside Living in the Future. You can sign up. There's a free trial, 7 days. Check it out. Watch today's show. And then if you don't like it, you can always cancel it at a later date. But it's only $5 a month right now. It's going to jump up to 10 in a couple weeks. But like I said, if you are somebody who's been thinking about it, now would be the time to hop over because you're going to be grandfathered into that price forever. You're going to be within the network. So with that, I hope you have the best day of your life today. It's Tuesdays. I hate Tuesdays, but anyways, we're going to have a good show today. It's going to be a quick one, but we got a couple things to check up on. So we'll see you right back here first thing tomorrow morning. Bye-bye. Or we'll see you in the future. I hope to see you there.